Previous videos we looked at the latest option in sim update number 3, which allows you to download content. In this video we're gonna look at the performance enhancements, and that's with a question mark, because does it really result in performance improvements? Let's roll the intro and then let's look at if there are indeed performance improvements. So we're at the My Library where you can, I would say, download all the content. So for this video, I already pre-download some content, but I'm planning to download more content to make sure that everything is correct, right? So I'm first going to show you how to download the content. And as you can see, there's also a downside because, hey, you still need to have the latest updates, which means that there sometimes are also updates available, as you can see over here. So that's, I would say, kind of a downside, right? Where if you would use the streaming version, you will always have the latest and greatest. You don't need to download all those updates. Whereas if you install the download content, you will still need to, let's say, update that content. But that's for now. So let's look at how you can simply download the content. So for this, we're gonna also make sure that we've got all the, I would say, basic content, but also all the other results, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the air traffic, we're gonna select the basic content. And as you can see, once selected, you have got the option download here, which is, I would say, pretty nice. For this video, we're gonna make sure that we're downloading the content for specific regions because I don't want to use everything. So I'm gonna download Western Europe also and make sure that I download the European cities and maybe European cities too also. I'm gonna leave the rest deselected. The reason I do that is if I would download everything, right, it still would add value, but I would definitely recommend you to download only the content on the region which you're flying to, because else you will waste, I would say, this space. Because as you can see here below, this requires already 222 gigabyte, which in most cases nowadays with the big disk size is not an issue anymore. But you could be, I would say, kind of surprised by how much disk space it takes. If you would select everything, it's roughly 500 gigabyte of data based on what I read on the internet and on several fora. And you can see that there are several things which you can still do, right? So the thing which you can keep in mind, or need to keep in mind, I should say, is also that the aircraft can also be downloaded. So let's have a look at that. So what you can either do is, I would say, expand it and then select one of the aircraft which you want to use and then select install or download. Or you can select all of them. If it's installed, the value will change to installed. As you can see over here, right? This one is already installed, so I don't need to install it again. But the other ones are all streamed, which means that it's using the normal technology, the default technology of Flight Simulator 2024. So with that, I think we've got enough, right? So I will click download. I will pause the video for now because I don't think it makes any sense to keep you watching, I would say, this nice download option. And then we'll look at how to update the content. So everything has been downloaded, but now first comes the weird part. After you download it, actually you need to install it. And the reason for it, I really don't know why they did it this way, but what you need to do is you need to select all the items which you want to do, I would say, which you just downloaded, right? In this case, I would say the air traffic aircraft, the base content, and also this one and this one. You can now install it, right? Also this one, and that's, say, pretty okay-ish, but it's kind of weird. You can also filter them on state, but to be honest, the state is, it does not have any specific category. I tried to find it here, right? Because it says installed, streamed, or update available. And I was hoping that there was, I would say, ready to install or something category, but it's not there. So once you've done that, you will install a package. So to show you what happens actually is we need to go to the Explorer, right? And then I can show you what happens. Because what it does, in my case, in the Flight Simulator folder, the official one store, you will see that everything has a dot or minus stamp, except the classic one, because that one was already installed. So likely if I would press install now, which might take again some time, it will change those names to the official names. In most cases, this will go pretty quick, but I will pause the video because I don't think it makes sense that you are watching the screen. So everything has now been installed, and if we look at the Explorer, you can see that all those temp, I would say appendixes or the ends are now gone, right? So everything is now there, and say it's pretty interesting, right? It's an interesting option. But of course, this were only the things which were, I would say, installed already. Now, if you've got packages which you already installed, but an update is available, there luckily is a filter, because you can simply say this, and then you can select the items which you want to update, and then say update. As you can see, the update is not that big, so it will likely go pretty fast. Here you can see already installed, so it was not, I would say, a huge thing based on this. At least that's... The downloading went pretty quick, but then you still need to go to the install options. So install them again, and then you need to wait, right? So it's, I would say, I do think that they're still investigating if this can be optimized, but likely there's a reason they do it like this. But to be honest, I think it's, well, kind of weird. The other thing I can imagine is that they do it because if you download everything, which is, I would say, pretty cool to see, is that they do downloads in parallel where they download multiple packages. And what you saw in Flight Simulator 2020, or still see in Flight Simulator 2020, is that they download a package and then sometimes it needs to install, and that will delay the process massively. So that could be the only thing which I can imagine that they did like this. But again, I'm gonna pause the recording because I don't want you to watch the install screen. So the download of the content has been completed. So let's compare now the Cessna 172 with the downloaded vs the streamed version of the scenery. Also, the aircraft, of course, has been downloaded, right? Because it was part of the base package. And we're taking off from London City Airport, and we're going to take a short flight. So what I did is I already did one fly to make sure that the, I would say, information was cached. So that's why you also see that the download speed for the, I would say, streaming version, which you see on the right side, is maybe less compared to if you would play this for the first time. Now, the interesting part is that if you look at the frames per second, they're, I would say, kind of the same, right? So nothing really worrying. If you look at the download speed, you can see that although I'd say I download everything, there is still some data being downloaded, which I do think makes sense, right? Because it still downloads, for example, the ATC voice, etc. The other thing is if you look at the LOD, right, the level of detail, this one is definitely better in the, let's say, download version compared to the streamed version, although I'd say it fluctuates a bit. Now you can see on the right side that it's yellow, but it turned quickly to green. And I would say this was a pretty interesting. Also, one of the other observations, although the frames are not entirely in sync, right, because that's, let's say, it's kind of fluctuating, you can see that the main thread is still being affected the most. So I read a lot of threads about this, also how to get rid of that red mark on the top, I should say. But it also has to do with the refresh rate, right? If you set the refresh rate to maximum, in this case maximum of the monitor, it will always turn red unless you set it to, for example, 30 or 60 frames per second. You can see currently we're at, I would say, 75-ish. And you can see that the LOD frames for the downloaded stream is, I would say, much greener compared to the streamed version. Although my internet connection is, I would say, pretty perfect. I would say it's a 1 gig link, so nothing to worry about. Also, the coherent GTUI thread is a little bit more yellow for the streamed version vs the download version. You can see the download version is, I would say, much greener, even if we're flying over the same, I would say, part of the city. In this case, the financial district, right, Canary Wharf. You can see that, interesting enough, it's using the cache a lot because you can see that the download speed is almost zero, or almost, it is zero. But you will see if we start descending the aircraft, which we'll do soon, that the download speed will increase a bit. Not that much, but you also see something other interesting that will also increase the download speed a bit for the download version. So it still downloads some content, and that was, I would say, 1 beep, right, where you can see short peak where it downloads a really small bit, and you will see that the streamed version, I would say, will download a little bit more in a few seconds. Frames per second, I would say, comparisons. I do think roughly, if you take the average, they will be the same. If you would look really frame per frame, you will see that the download version, I would say, is behaving slightly better. Although in some cases you still see the main thread being kicked in. Although I do think it has to do also with some other things which happen in Flight Simulator, to be honest. So pretty interesting to see this behavior. The GPU itself, right, you can see that it's kind of stable, it doesn't do much. Also, if you look at the memory used, there is, let's say, not that much difference, although the download version is consuming a little bit more compared to the stream version. What's roughly 500 megabyte. So we should soon start descending. So let's see what happens then, right, because that's pretty interesting. If you looked at the download speed, you could see that it shortly beeps up a bit. Because it needs to download some new content. I also do think that it has mainly to do with, for example, the ships which it needs to download, because there are a lot of ships, right, on the Thames. And that doesn't happen with the download version. And again, right, the rest is pretty the same. Although the LOD is more impacted from the terrain perspective for the stream version, although now also the download version kicks in, as you can see. And this is what I meant, right? You can shortly see the download, where you see that the download version consumes roughly 2.6 megabyte, where the download speed on the stream version goes up to 40. So it means it needs to download more content, which again makes sense because, hey, we don't have any content. So that's pretty interesting. As you can see, I would say performance-wise, I do think that the download version is a little bit more smoother compared to the stream version. But that could also be, say, something which I would say is my own opinion. I'm not sure how you or what you think about it. Let me know via the comment box what you think about it. So this is the Cessna 172, right? So pretty interesting aircraft, and you can see, I would say, a lot of difference already. Now we looked at the Cessna, let's look at the Boeing 787, different airport in this case, London Heathrow, which is a much heavier airport. On the left side, you can see the download version. On the right side, you can see the stream version. So first observation is that the frames per second is, I would say, lower on the left side, as well as the main thread, the coherent GTU UI thread, as well as the manipulators is a lot more red and higher values compared to the stream version. This is, I would say, kind of weird because I was expecting exactly the same as when taking off from London City using the Cessna 172. But it looks like that the Boeing 787 is, I would say, a heavy one because it's affecting the main thread massively, because you can see that it switches between main thread and the coherent GTU UI thread. So it looks like that there's some weird things going on with this aircraft, or it simply is, I would say, a heavier usage on the resources. That also can be seen on the memory, right? The memory usage in this case is lower on the download version via the stream version, which is what you would expect. In the version when we're flying over London, you could see, I'd say, completely the different way around, right? So the opposite, where the download version was using much more memory compared to the stream version. Now, if you look at the, I would say, performance, right? This is, I would say, the performance which is currently, let's say, the way it is in sim update number 3 beta. My system is, I would say, pretty high skill, right? 4090 video card with, I would say, a lot of memory, but also, I would say, a pretty good CPU. But it looks like that the main thread is used or is almost hammered by the Boeing 787. I'm trying to test some more aircraft to see, okay, if I'm seeing the same behavior. Because it's, I would say, kind of weird, right? I hope that the eventual performance in Flight Simulator 2024 sim update number 3 beta is much better compared to what you currently are seeing, because I would say I was not that happy with it, to be honest. So now we looked at both comparisons, right? Streamed vs downloaded, what's the best option? Well, I do think it really depends, because if you're having a good internet connection, it shouldn't be an issue, right? If you're having an internet connection which is being capped because you've got a maximum bandwidth which you can use per month, then it might make sense to download the content, because at least it saves, I would say, a lot of bandwidth. Keep in mind that not all the content can be downloaded, right? For example, the live weather, etc. It still needs to be downloaded. But for example, the scenery, but also the base content, as well as the air traffic, that one can be downloaded and can save you a lot of, I would say, bandwidth. Now, one other caveat is if you download the content, keep in mind that starting Flight Simulator takes longer. It's, I would say, kind of makes sense, right? Because if you would compare it to Flight Simulator 2020, which also did have a long boot time compared to Flight Simulator 2024, you will see, I would say, not 100% the same behavior because it's much quicker, but you will see a delay in, I would say, the package being loaded. That again makes sense because it needs to download it from disk and likely also add it to some databases. I'm not sure how that works under the hood. It would be pretty interesting to understand that, by the way. So what if you did test with the streaming version, but you want to, or did test with the download version, I should say, but you want to go back to the stream version? How can you get rid of those download packages? Well, I show you for the Cessna 172, right, which is here, and it says installed. So what you can do is you can simply select it and then say uninstall. It will show this, I would say, kind of progress meter, and then it will move back to streamed, which makes it, I would say, this, using the streaming version again, and you don't need to take care of all those updates because that's all server side and you always are using the latest version. Pretty nice, right? Now here ends this video. I hope you liked it. I'm also curious how your experience is with download via streamed, so feel free to use the comment box below this video to leave your comment and also to ask some more questions if you are wanting me to test some other functionality, for example. Again, here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then make sure you hit the like button because then I know that you like this kind of videos and I'm planning to create more of these. And if you don't like it, also fine, but also let me know. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you back next time.